Hey, I'm Scott Conant. You may know me from Chopped as one of the rotating judges. Today we are going to make a version of pasta puttanesca. Puttanesca is really kind of a traditional pasta in Naples and the Naples southern Italian area. It is one of those classic iconic Italian dishes that a lot of people know and love, and this is kind of my version of it, if you will. We're going to start with some tomatoes. I'm going to peel these plum tomatoes, de-seed them. We're going to add some baby tomatoes to that. I have anchovy, garlic, shallot, a little bit of galleta olives, as well as some capers, touch of crushed red pepper, a little bit of oregano, fresh parsley, extra virgin olive oil, pasta. Everything that is delicious in the world goes inside this. No Parmesan cheese. There's so much briny, salty flavor. The cheese isn't necessary. In southern Italy, what they do is they'll utilize breadcrumbs to top a lot of the pastas, as opposed to Parmesan cheese. Not a lot of cheeses were made down in the south of Italy, with the exception of pecorino cheeses, so they use more breadcrumbs very often. So, all that being said, let's make some puttanesca. I'm going to start with some garlic. I'm going to crush this. We're going to slice it very thin. I'm going to slice a little shallot. It is very unorthodox to use shallot inside this pasta preparation, but I do it, and I love the flavor profile that it creates. So we are going to slice this garlic nice and thin, Goodfellas style, super, super thin. I love the way this goes when we slice it nice and thin like that. I'm going to do the same with the shallots once I peel them. Once that starts to cook, then we'll start to work on the tomatoes as well. Here is the shallot. Cut the ends off. Peel this. So, got the garlic, shallot, same thing, end to end, very, very thin. Once I identify that, I flip it over, still end to end. I really like to cut my onions, shallots, garlic, all that stuff end to end. For me, I like the texture of it a little bit better. Love a shallot. The shallot's not necessarily associated very often with Italian cuisine, but I like it, so I use it. I have a small saute pan here. I'm going to add extra virgin olive oil and let it get. I'm going to add a good amount of oil in this because I really like it, and it goes well with these flavors. Very Mediterranean style flavors here. I have a couple fillets of anchovy, and what I'm going to do is put that anchovy directly inside the extra virgin olive oil, and I'm going to let that kind of heat very gently, and I'm going to break that up with this fork. Once it starts, you'll see it kind of come to a simmer a little bit, and the anchovy will start to fizzle a touch. Before it gets too hot, I'm just going to break it up with that fork so that it dissipates into the oil, and then I'll add the garlic and the shallot directly to it. So there we go. In the meantime, while that's starting to move, I could hear it starting to go. I'm just going to cut the stem off of this tomato, make a little X mark inside that. Same thing with this other one. These are plum tomatoes. I'm going to use a combination of plum and cherry tomatoes. I just like the way these plum tomatoes cook up. They're almost always ripe. If I want to ripen them a little bit more, if they need a little more time, I'll let them sit on my countertop in a paper bag for a day or two. So here we go. This is the anchovy. You can see the way it's kind of fizzled up, it's broken apart. I'm going to add the shallot and garlic directly to this and just let it go nice and slow. I'm going to turn this flame down to medium-low. Not all the way low, but medium-low. I'm going to add a little bit of crushed red pepper to this as well. I like this to be a little bit spicy, so I would normally make it super spicy. I'm going to rein it in a touch, but I think that That anchovy cooking with the shallot and the garlic and the extra virgin olive oil and that little bit of crushed red pepper, it just adds such a nice flavor. It's really such a beautiful perfume, so to speak. If you don't like spicy food, you can totally omit the crushed red pepper altogether. It's completely based on your preference. So we're gonna let that kind of fizzle and sizzle and come together and intermingle and all that stuff. These tomatoes, I'm just gonna drop for 30 seconds or so in the boiling water. I'm gonna pull them out, peel the seed. I'm not even gonna go into an ice bath with this. It's just 2 small tomatoes. We're gonna do it kind of quickly. So that's cooking away. In the meantime, I'm gonna flip this cutting board over so that I don't have any residual garlic or shallot flavor on that. I'm shaking this pan like that because I really want this to cook evenly. You know, there's always warm spots on top of a burner, and I don't want anything to be cooked more than anything else. So I just get that beautiful perfume, and it just makes me happy. It's a good thing. All right, tomato 1, 2. Peel these tomatoes. All good. As soon as this garlic mixture is finished cooking, I'm gonna put it inside this bowl, and I'm gonna add all the tomatoes to it. I'm gonna chop up a little bit of oregano and add directly to that. I love oregano, but I like it in subtle flavor. And I feel like if you cook oregano a touch, particularly fresh oregano, it takes a little bit of that resin quality out of the oregano, and it could be just a little bit too raw for me sometimes. So sometimes what I can do also is just keep it the way it is and put it directly inside that oil. And I'm gonna chop this up really fine, take it off the stems. And again, this is just really rustic, simple cooking. Doesn't have to be overly fine. There we go. And we're just gonna put it in that oil. And again, just to get that oregano inside, it's a fat-soluble herb, which means it reacts well with oil. So flavors will come out better with oregano and oil. It's easy to make an oregano oil, for example. It really has a great extraction of flavor into that extra virgin olive oil. So I just love the sense of this. This is like flavors that I grew up with, kind of. This very comforting and warm for me. So we are gonna take this out. I'm gonna put it directly inside this bowl. It's nice and warm. We have the mixture inside this bowl, and now I'm gonna cut these tomatoes. I'm gonna cut some of them in half, some of them in quarters. I love this mixture of cherry tomatoes, baby tomatoes, heirloom tomatoes, whatever it is that you want, your favorite tomato, mixed inside with this mixture. It's just the way to go. It's very simple and very straightforward. There we go. And this is one of those things, as these tomatoes are added, and you could put this in a sealed container inside your refrigerator and keep it for several days. You could just easily take it out and saute it up and add some pasta to it, and it's ready to go. I mean, this is really simple and straightforward. It doesn't have to be with pasta. You could put it on top of bruschetta, put it on top of grilled bread, put it on top of fish as well. If you have a grilled piece of fish or roasted piece of fish, it's a good sauce that lends itself to a lot of different usages. All right, tomatoes, I'm gonna cut these in. There we go. Kind of about the same size, the pieces that you have here with your cherry tomatoes. So, about 16 pieces or so, cut them into eighths or quarters or whatever your tomato feels like it feels best at, right? There's not a lot of rules, written rules with this. So tomatoes. I'm just going to toss this together. You can see how those, it's all in here. I'm going to add the capers directly to this. Just let those flavors intermingle. They're good as they are. So you're going to take your parsley, and we're going to chop this up as well. You want to use the leaves, not the stems. Some of the stem is okay, but not too much. The stem has great flavor, but it's very fibrous. So I like to save it for stocks and sauces and things like that. So you're going to take this parsley, really roll it up nice and tight, and you're going to create this nice, very fine chiffonade. And again, saw this. If you see the way I'm using this knife, I'm sawing it so that I'm not, if I'm just cutting down on it, it's going to bruise the parsley and turn brown. So we don't want to do that. And again, really rustic. All right, parsley's inside here. Delicious. It's almost like a relish, you know, just all the delicious flavors. I'm going to add a touch more olive oil. You see that? All those beautiful tomatoes inside there. It's just great flavor profile. Seal it in a container, put it inside the refrigerator at least overnight, and those flavors are just going to intermingle and get better and better and better. I'm going to add some galleta olives to this. They're already pitted. I'm just going to chop them up a little bit, not too much, rough cut. Cut them in quarters or whatever makes you happy. Same thing. All those flavors are going to intermingle. This just smells so, I wish you could smell this. This smells so good. All right, pasta. Boiling water with salt inside of it. That salt should taste like broth, right? So enough salt inside that flavor is going to transfer to the pasta itself. I have spaghetti here. I would cook this spaghetti about 90% of the way, then take it out of the water and cook it the rest of the way inside this sauce, right? So pasta water itself tastes like broth with the amount of salt that's inside of it. I'm going to taste that. A little bit more salt. Now, I don't want to add too much salt to this water because there's a lot of salty components in this puttanesca. I don't want that salt to be concentrated inside with the pasta, added to the sauce, and then it just becomes a salt bomb. That's not what we want. Little tip on pasta and how much to cook per person. I always say for one person, you want about the size of a nickel. That's about the size, if you hold it in your hand, the dimension around of a nickel, right? And then it grows from there. So for 4 people, maybe 1 inch around, that's about 4 people, give or take. I eat a lot of pasta, so I give myself a little extra. So 1 pound of pasta easily for 6 people. I'm gonna drop this pasta directly inside the pasta water. So I'm gonna turn that heat up, make sure that it's coming to a rolling boil. Meantime, this pan is getting nice and hot, all right? I get a lot of grief because when people break the pasta, it kind of makes me crazy. The integrity of the pasta itself is a very important aspect of what pasta is. So during the Renaissance days, the fork was invented by the Italians in order to eat pasta in particular, right? So it's very important that the way it is on the fork, it's rolled, and that's the texture, the mouthfeel, the integrity of the pasta itself is very important. You want to break your pasta? Break your pasta. But it's not right. This pan's getting very hot. I'm going to add a touch of olive oil to it, just a touch. And I want to get this pan hot enough that when I add these tomatoes and this tomato mixture to the pan, all the flavors are intermingled. When the tomatoes hit the pan, there's enough surface area that inherent moisture of those tomatoes immediately evaporates. And then once they evaporate, there's a concentration of flavors, and I'll add this pasta cooking liquid. You'll see exactly what I mean. Now this pasta will take 10 minutes or so to cook, and it's cooking nicely inside this water. Again, the water tastes like broth. It's not too salty. I'm going to utilize some of that water inside the sauce later on. I have this wooden spoon here to make sure that everything is, being mixed around properly. I don't want too much metal on metal. There's always a transfer of flavor, particularly if you're cooking with aluminum at home. A wooden spoon is a good thing to have in your toolbox. Pasta is almost done. We're getting there. You can tell by the way it is. It's still al dente. You can tell by the color. Pasta is one of those things. The more you cook it, the better a feel you get for it. This pan is very hot. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to add this sauce. I want to do this off of the heat because I don't want there to be a flare up and a flame. It's dangerous and it changes the entire flavor profile of what you're cooking. So, again, it's all in the pan, super hot, nice and high. As soon as we add that, obviously, the temperature of the pan drops, but there's also an immediate release of the liquid in the tomatoes. So we want to make sure that we're capturing all of those flavors inside this pan. It releases and it evaporates almost right away. I don't want to touch it too much, but you see how beautiful this looks. So, good stuff. All right, this pasta is about 90% of the way cooked. I'm going to take it out of here. And I'm going to cook it the rest of the way in this tomato mixture. I'm going to reserve this liquid because I want to adjust it I got to tell you, I love this stuff. This is so good. So you can hear the way this is sizzling, right? It's sizzling because there's not a lot of liquid inside. It's cooking with the oil. It's kind of frying all together. I'm going to add a little bit of the pasta water. I got all those flavors intermingling together. It's kind of sizzling up. I don't want the pasta to fry. If I don't add the pasta water, it's going to start to fry together and we're going to lose everything. So I want all the inherent liquid of the tomato to be reduced out. I want that concentration of tomato to be there. And this pasta cooking liquid is additional flavor. It has the starch of the pasta. It has the salt that tastes like broth. So together these things are kind of cooking down and intermingling and just having a great deep reduction of flavor being concentrated together. This does not need Parmesan cheese. You can easily add a little bit of toasted breadcrumbs on top of this for a little bit of flavor. Otherwise, it's really good as it is. So if you're going to toss this pasta, if you can, put most of it geared towards the back of the pan and just up and over, up and over, up and over. If you can't do that, no big deal. I want to see if this pasta is done. So the perfect toothsome quality of this pasta, for me, is when you bite your front tooth, there's a slight amount of resistance, but it doesn't feel undercooked. I feel like all too often people take the al dente aspect of the pasta to an extreme. There's no reason to do that. Plus, tasting this pasta will let me know whether or not this sauce itself is seasoned properly, and there's that good transfer of flavor. That's why I added a pinch of salt, because I feel like I'd rather go a little undersalted than oversalted, because you could always add more salt. It's really hard to take salt away. So now look at this. This is an important aspect of cooking this pasta. You see the way this sauce is? Those are the natural pectins from the tomatoes themselves, particularly the cherry tomatoes. They have a beautiful, sweet, delicious quality to them. The pectin is a really important aspect of sauce making. That sauce is how your pasta is going to be coated. That is the right texture for the sauce to be. The starch is mixing with the oil, is mixing with the pasta, is mixing with the pasta cooking liquid, and it's also mixing with the release of the juices from the tomatoes themselves, and that's how you get that perfect sauce. All right, Now, listen, if you don't like this, oh my God. Oh my God, this makes me so happy. Look at that juice. You want to grab a piece of bread and sop up whatever's on the plate there. So this pasta intermingled nicely with the sauce. You can see how it's all cooked together. There's so many different ingredients here that are just such a thing of beauty. It gives me a tingle up my spine. You get the fresh, forward freshness of the tomato. It's so assertive. You get the texture of the olives, the beautiful brininess of the capers, a little bit of that crushed red pepper, bright, beautiful extra virgin olive oil. Good stuff. Thank you for cooking along with me. I hope you like this.